Hello, everyone, and welcome to the top 8 from the Oswego, Illinois City Championships between Dustin Zimmerman on the right, one of our up-and-coming stars in the Pokemon TCG. He's actually won quite a few city championships up to this point. A well-known player by this point, and he's facing up against our very own Michael Pramawat. And this should be a good one. These are two of the best players in the world, no doubt about it. Both meeting up here at the Chicago Marathon in Oswego, Illinois, in this top 8 match. And this is just what the marathon was all about. Lots of high quality players. Just great matchups all day, every day. And this was no exception. So Dustin will be going first. You can see he's using a Darkrai deck. He will be using a Darkrai Terrakion deck with some Crushing Hammers as well. I believe there's a Landorus in there somewhere too. And Pram is going to be using Ho-Oh. So this will be another opportunity for people to witness the Ho-Oh deck. As you can see, he is starting with Bouffalant, one of the many random attackers that, Ho-Oh can start with. And right off the bat, Dustin's got a pretty strong start. He's going to Ultra Ball twice, get a Dark in the discard pile. And we can see he's got the Terrakion out there, he's got the Sableye out there. Gets a Dark on his Darkrai. Going to retreat to Sableye. You get the free retreat from the Dark Cloak on Darkrai. He's just going to Energy Switch after he retreats, move it up to Sableye. Throw an Eviolite down onto Darkrai. Think about it at least. And then he's probably just going to Junk Hunt for 2 items that he discarded with the Juniper, or he could just go, let's see what he gets. I'm not even going to guess. Let's just see what he gets. He's got a Golden Catcher and an Energy Switch. So Sableye, of course, one of the best, if not the best, utility Pokemon in the game. Just get to Junk Hunt. For 1 Dark Energy, you get back 2 items. That is ridiculous. And you can see Dustin, even though he had to discard a Catcher and an Energy Switch right off the bat, they're right back in his deck for him to reuse. It's an incredibly good attack. Alright, so Pram, after seeing that, is just going to say, I'm just going to end you. I think he had a Juniper as well. He just didn't want to discard a handful of good stuff. It's kind of the problem with Ho-Oh sometimes. You just have a handful of good stuff that you don't want to get rid of, and you're forced to end instead. So he's just going to attach a Fighting to his Bouffalant and pass. You might wonder, why didn't he attach the double Colorless there? And then Ultra Ball away his Ho-Oh and a Fighting. Seemed like that would be the better move, right? Well, the reason he wouldn't do that is because he knows Dustin plays Enhanced Hammer, which instantly discards a double Colorless. Which means that just kind of wastes his attachment for the turn. This way, he could at least pull off Gold Breaker on the second turn. And Dustin is being very aggressive here. He's just going right for Terrakion. He's energy switching. He's saying, you know what? I'm just going to get rid of this thing before it's a problem. I'm going to just send up my Terrakion. And this is actually a very good strategy when you're using a Darkrai deck. Against the Ho-Oh deck, just go with Terrakion because, Ho-Oh's got a bunch of stuff to deal with pretty much anything, but there's nothing in the format that honestly deals with Terrakion that well. Nothing really just kind of gets rid of it. Besides a Keldeo EX, which, obviously, Pram is not using here. But yeah, it's got 130 hit points. It just kind of beats you in the face with either Land Crush or Retaliate. And it's not an EX, and it's just great to start off with. So this is a good move by Dustin. Now he only does 40 to Bouffalant because of the Boofer ability. It reduces all damage done to it by 20. So that is nice for Pram. That's going to force Dustin to have, another Fighting in order to Land Crush him. But Pram, you can see he got a really bad hand off of that end. Doesn't have any supporters to work with. Doesn't really have much at all to work with. So he's just going to switch to Mewtwo, drop a double Colorless and X-Ball for 60. And there is that Enhanced Hammer. Now this is one of the most annoying things in the world for the Ho-Oh deck because you really do rely a lot on your double Colorless. You rely on those cheap attacks with X-Ball or maybe a double Colorless on Bouffalant. And if those get removed, that sets you back quite a bit. Because you only get 4 of those DCs, and you lose your energy attachment for the turn. So it's going to make things very difficult for Pram really follow up. And if you look, he just doesn't have anything in his hand either. So this is just going to be a bad, bad spot for him. As for Dustin, it looks like he's got plenty of options to work with. He's just trying to decide what he wants to do next. He's got a Skyla, he's got Random Receiver, he's got Juniper. He doesn't have an energy, excuse me, he doesn't have an energy though. That's the one thing he does not have. But he's going to play Skyla, and we'll see what he decides to grab with that. Looks like he's going to go for an Energy Search. So this is the nice flexibility that Skyla provides. It allows you to play these nice items that you can search for, or just trainers in general. Energy Search is one of them. So you can just pretty much just search for an energy if you need one. You can search for an energy switch if you need one. You can search for Catcher. It just gives you a lot of flexibility, gives you a lot of searching power, so that you can get the card you need when you need it. And this is a great example of that. So he's going to retreat freely to the Darkrai. Again, the Dark Cloak gives free retreat to anything that has a dark energy attached to it. Energy Switch, a Dark to Darkrai, and then Night Spear for 90, and then it'll hit the Boufflant for 10. So right now, I mean, if you're Pram, you got to be a little worried, and your Mewtwo's going to go down next turn. You really don't have the cards to play fancy at all, so you just got to say, all right, I'm going to put down Terrakion with a Fire. This is probably my best chance to, buy some time. And it's going to make Dustin have to think about it. I mean, if Dustin is feeling particularly risky today, he could just, knock out the Mewtwo with Night Spear and then just hope Pram doesn't have a Fighting or an Energy Switch and then go from there. But what this forces Dustin to do is Catcher out the Terrakion, which it just happened, and attack it. It essentially gives Pram one more turn to draw something else. It's at the cost of a Terrakion, which is a real annoyance because that's really your key in this matchup. And Dustin flips two tails on a Crushing Hammer there. That's kind of nerve-wracking for him, Now we could see Pram get like an Energy Switch and a Fighting, and he could Land Crush for a knockout on that Darkrai. This is the risk of catching up Terrakion. But as we can see, Pram just does not have anything. He's got a Plus Power, a Catcher, and an Ultra Ball. None of those are going to help him out at this point. And so Dustin's probably going to feel pretty safe Night Spearing here. There is a worry that he could just get, Energy Switch and then Fighting and just kind of get blown out. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen here. And now Pram's in quite a bit of a hole. This can happen against Darkrai. You just think, well, I got to do something aggressive. So you attack with Mewtwo, and then they play an Enhanced Hammer, and then they Night Spear you. And you're like, well, I got to bench something else because my Mewtwo's going to get knocked out. And then I'll attach to it. And then that gets Catchered, and then it gets hit. And all of a sudden, you're stuck with a board of Pokemon that have a ton of damage on it. You have a Terrakion with 90, a Mewtwo with 120, and a Boufflant with 50. And you don't really have any offense going for you. It's very scary. This can spiral out of control very quickly. It's just the power of, Darkrai and those Enhanced Hammers and Crushing Hammers. And this is not unusual to see in this matchup. It really isn't. Having played it many, many times, I know this is kind of the ebb and flow of things. And it looks very bad for Pram, but you can come back from just about anything against Darkrai if you can just pull a Terrakion out of your butt and retaliate one turn, Land Crush the next turn. That's a 4-prize swing. The bummer for Pram is that he's losing his Terrakion here. He's forced to bench it early, so he's only going to have one more to work with, honestly. And, yeah, that's it. He's got to hope the other one isn't prized, and he's got to hope for some good fortune the rest of the way. Now, he did Skyla and grabbed a Juniper from that, just to get a supporter for next turn. It's kind of a bittersweet feeling when you top deck a Skyla in that situation, Sure, you got a supporter, but now you still have to wait until next turn to actually draw cards. But now we're seeing Dustin play another Skyla. He's going to grab an Energy Switch. Now, he's been kind of short on energy attachments this game. That's the only thing really going wrong for him. He just, he just didn't have an energy to attach this turn. He had a Skyla for the Energy Search the previous turn. Now he's got a Skyla for the energy switch this turn, just to retreat his Sableye. Which, it's not the end of the world. It's just a minor annoyance. But, can get in the way. And now, I mean, this is all up to Pram. Now he's got an Ultra Ball. He's going to play this before he Junipers just to get a Ho-Oh in the discard pile. So he's just going to go ahead and grab that. Surprised he didn't take a better look through his deck at that point. I don't think he's had a chance to search his deck quite yet. And he might just be a little frustrated with the situation right now. And maybe he's already looked, I don't know. But he's going to Juniper, get a Ho-Oh in the discard pile. And now there's two different types of energy in there as well. And we'll see where it goes from here. Honestly, it's a very ugly situation, but it's not unwinnable by any means. I mean, yeah, there's a Mewtwo there with, 150 damage on it. Yeah, the Buffon has 50 damage on it. But, and yeah, there's a fully powered Darkrai. And yeah, there's a Terrakion with a fighting on it. And yeah, you're probably going to fall behind like 3 prizes. But it's not the end of the world. You can come back from this. It's just going to be kind of tough, that's all. Now, Pram decides to, move some energy up to his Mewtwo. And then X-Ball for 80 this turn. I think he's just trying to do that so he can set up a play with Rebirth. Get a Ho-Oh out there. And, if you have 4 different types of energy on Ho-Oh, you can actually Rainbow Burn for 100. So he's just kind of setting up that play. Which can be pretty cute. This is where Ho-Oh can kind of come back. You can just bring a Ho-Oh out of nowhere, start attacking, get some energy switches, maybe load up a Terrakion, start land crushing, start going with a Mewtwo. All this stuff can happen. But, again, it's all going to depend on what he draws. And he is far behind at this point. And, oh no, a gold potion. That's got to, make you cringe if you're Pram. Normally you expect people to play Computer Search, especially in a Darkrai deck. But Dustin opting to play the gold potion, it's definitely paying off there. And that's just one of those things where you're like, really? Gold potion? And it wiped away his entire attack. Instead of having a Darkrai with 100 hit points left, and now has 180 on it again. And that's no good. That's just really brutal, honestly. Now, Pram does have Sigilyph out here, so he's going to be able to survive for a little bit. This is what Sigilyph can do for you in this matchup. Now, it's not going to attack. It really is not. But what it does is it's kind of a placeholder, just to make sure that you don't get benched out. It's very nice in that regard. It gives you time to set up your stuff. You can put an energy on it. Maybe set up for an energy switch later on. It's just a place to put your stuff. Psychic's not going to do anything against Darkrai. But, it's like he has to attack with Terrakion to knock you out. He does. That's just the way it is. Sableye, sure, he can confuse Ryu 9 times, but he's going to have to switch gears at some point and attack with Terrakion. Which means he's going to have to stop attacking with Darkrai. So it just kind of slows everything down. And it says, alright, Night Spear is going to be very, very ineffective at this point. You can hit Boufflant, knock that out if you have a catcher. Otherwise, you're going to have to Night Spear for 10 to Boufflant because of the Bouffer ability. Sigilyph cannot be attacked by EXs. And instead, you can see, it just forced Dustin to slow down here. It bought Pram a turn. He retreats to Sableye, gets back the gold potion, the energy switch, and man, that's got to make you cringe even more when you see someone getting back a gold potion for the second time. That is the most annoying thing in the world. But it's not the end of the world, I suppose. Pram is going to go ahead and Ultra Ball away a Switch and a Charon. He's probably just going to get another Ho-Oh. I would assume he has a Juniper in his hand. And I guess he'll try to knock out Sableye this turn if he can. If he has a plus power and a DCE, he could knock out that Sableye this turn with Psychic. That would be a big play. And take his first prize. It would be an okay play, I guess, because he would also have to run into Terrakion at that point. And then his Sigilyph just gets knocked out by a Retaliate, and I don't know. So it just really seems like at this point, anything Pram does is not going to be good enough. He's down 3 prizes. He doesn't have much in play. There's just so much going against him. And you know, you might wonder at this point, should I scoop? It is a best 2 out of 3 match, 60 minutes long. And, you know, it does not look good. This is about as bleak of a situation as you could be in. And sometimes sometimes being a good tournament player is knowing when to call it quits and to buy yourself some time for just to make sure that the last 2 games complete. But if Pram thinks he can win, he's going to stick it out. Now, he missed a double colorless this turn, so he just is not able to pull off the Psychic for the knockout. I don't think it's the end of the world. Yeah, he wasted his plus power, but I really don't know if knocking out the Sableye there is even the best move. He's gonna... I mean, he would just get retaliated by Terrakion, and that's just not good. He would lose Sigilyph, he wouldn't really gain any ground, you'd only take him 1 prize. So, I don't know. But instead, he's just going to attach a second Psychic Energy to the Sigilyph. And I suppose he's just going to pass. Actually, he's going to switch into Boufflant. So I guess he really wants that plus power to stick on that Sigilyph too. But yeah, he really wants the energy to stay in place, so he can energy switch it off to something else. That's why you see him being so cautious with this. You know, he just doesn't want an energy switch and a fighting to go on to Terrakion, and then he gets land crushed. That would be a bummer, and lose both of his energy, lose his Sigilyph. That's not something he wants to have happen. So once again, the gold potion comes into play. Terrakion is healed completely, and effectively Pram has done 0 damage this game. He has actually not affected Dustin's board at all the entire game. And he's about to be down 4 prizes. And it is just brutal. I mean, it's just, mentally it's brutal. You just look at it and it's just ugly. You are getting beaten in every single aspect of this game. You're losing on prizes. He has more energy in play than you. His guys look more intimidating. Everything that could go wrong is going wrong. But Pram is still sticking around. And we'll see what Dustin decides to do here. He's going to play an energy switch. Move a 3rd energy onto Terrakion. Just in case he gets end, I suppose. He wants to be able to land crush the following turn. He also wants to give his Terrakion free retreat, so it doesn't get stuck up there. He's going to drop another Eviolite on his Darkrai. Now this is all just in preparation for an N. Because now, at this point, this is where N gets scary. You know, you only get 2 cards. And alright, well, we'll have to see how Pram decides to go about this. There's, like, no easy way to go about this. He will play an Ultra Ball. And, oh, there's no Terrakion left in his deck. Uh-oh. That means he doesn't have a Terrakion left. That's going to make things very difficult. I just don't know how he wins from that point. He's going to need to get that out of his prize at some point, but how is he even going to take a prize? He's got to go Mewtwo, I suppose. That's all he has left. He has a Mewtwo and a Landorus. I guess he could always do Ho-Oh as well. He should play the energy switch this turn, and he will just do, you know, he's got to power up Mewtwo. That's his only way to win. And he's going to Juniper for 7. And, you know, after looking through his deck and seeing the Terrakion isn't there, you got to think Pram has pretty much resigned this game. Just saying, you know what? I really don't know if I can win anymore. I'm going to play a couple more turns just because it's so close to being over anyway. But you got to expect to be losing at this point. So he does have a switch. He could also retreat if he wanted to. Switch would preserve the energy in play. Retreating preserves the switch in case his Landorus gets captured out. And he's going to attach to Landorus, so I guess he's going to try to go for maybe like a Land's Judgment kind of a play. I guess that is another way to knock out some Darkrai's. It's not as good as Retaliate, but that is another option. But nope, he's actually going to attach to Mewtwo. He's got the Tool Scrapper, which is very nice. He's going to be able to discard both of Dustin's Eviolites. And I guess the question is he going to retreat an X-Ball, or is he going to switch an X-Ball? Or is he just going to leave the Sigilyph up there and pass? He's thinking about going for Rebirth. Decides not to. And actually passes the turn. So, wow. That is a really uneventful turn. I guess there's no real harm in just leaving Sigilyph up there. You know, if Dustin doesn't have a catcher, then that's... I mean, he can Land Crush and go down to 1 prize. Big whoop. He's still got to knock out an EX to win. So Pram does not mind just leaving the Sigilyph up there active. And maybe getting a big X-Ball on the following turn to knock out Terrakion. But again, this is an ugly situation. We might just see a 6-1 situation here, where Dustin is at 6 prizes, or Pram's at 6 prizes, Dustin is at 1. But actually, he catches out the Landorus EX. I do like this play. You know, maybe it would be better off going for the Mewtwo, honestly, since that's the thing that's going to be attacking. But I don't mind this. It's basically saying if you don't have a Switch, the game's over. But Pram does have the Switch. He's staying alive. And he's going to switch into Mewtwo, drop a double Colorless, Tool Scrapper, both of the Eviolites, and here is an N. So who knows? We could be on the comeback trail. It just does not seem very likely. There's so much energy on Dustin's board. There's the 3 energy on the Darkrai, which won't even be knocked out this turn. There's 3 energy on the Terrakion. There's 1 on the other Darkrai. He could always Junk Hunt. He's so far ahead that he could afford to use a turn to get back 2 items with Junk Hunt. It's just so much stuff going against Pram at this point. And, you know, the N, I don't really think there's much he could hope to get off of that. And he's going to X-Ball for 120 damage. There's 7 energy, that's 140 minus 20 for the resistance on Darkrai. X-Ball is pretty good. But yeah, the problem is it's just kind of inevitable that Dustin will win. Even if he just Night Spears and keeps targeting down the Landorus, it's 3 Night Spears away from a win. Or a catcher for the win. Honestly, that's all it takes. And yeah. So it seems pretty straightforward at this point. But who knows? I've seen stranger things happen in Pokemon. I'm going to see Night Spear. Now the Mewtwo's at 120. The Landorus is at 120. Either of those just getting hit one more time by Terrakion or a Darkrai. And Pram will lose. Dustin only needs 2 prizes. He's going for Rebirth. And he gets that, I guess. He can just kind of keep rotating attackers. And then just kind of hope that Dustin never draws a catcher. The obvious problem with that is that Sableye is sitting there. He could just Junk Hunt for 2 catchers. And, you know, he'll have one. But, man. This is the start. We're going to see a Skyla. From Pram, he's just going to use it this turn. Might as well. He's got options between Energy Switch and a catcher. I don't really think there's anything else for him to take at this point. There's a Juniper. I don't think he wants to take that. And he's going to take the Energy Switch. Just going to thin his deck out for next turn, I suppose. Now, honestly, the way he's going to... I mean, this is his only shot, really. Is to knock out this Darkrai with Rainbow Burn. And get Terrakion out of his prizes. There's no other way to really pull this one off. And there we go. There's a Rainbow Burn. And let's see. Did he get the Terrakion? Oh, he got it. Whoa. Alright, so there's a shot here. And, I mean, if you're Dustin, you got to be thinking that this game is on lock. This game is over. But there is a little bit of hope. The game is not completely over. And Dustin's just going to look through, see, alright, how much stuff have you used so far? How many of your energy switches have you used? Do you have another Ho in here? How many switches have you used? All that good stuff. Just to know what he's working with. And I guess he's probably just going to use this turn to use Junk Hunt. Because what else are you going to do here? He's going to put down another Darkrai. That's kind of risky. I don't think you need to put down that Darkrai there. Now this kind of opens you up to lose, honestly. Now it just takes, you know, I mean, it's it seems pretty unlikely, but Pram has a ton of cards in his hand. He just scouted for an energy switch. His deck is pretty thin. He's probably got everything he could want just sitting in his hand. And all it takes now is, a Terrakion, 2 energy switches, and, an energy. It would need to be a fighting, but a Terrakion, 2 energy switches, and a fighting, and then he can land crush, and then he can knock out a Darkrai, and it'll go down to 2 prizes. And then if Dustin doesn't win that turn, it's just 1 more land crush, and Pram wins. So, benching that Darkrai there was it was unnecessary, I think. I don't think Dustin should have done that there. It might not end up mattering, but it does open the door just a little bit for Pram to come back. And I think Dustin is realizing this. I think he's realizing, oh boy, this is a scary situation I think everybody encounters if you play Pokemon long enough, where you're like, I got this game on lock, nothing that can happen where I can lose this, I'm so far ahead, I have everything I need. Wait, am I going to lose? Can I lose this? Uh-oh. And it's just like the worst feeling in the pit of your stomach. But we will see him junk hunt here. And he's going to grab a catcher. I honestly, if I were him, I would just take 2 Pokemon catchers in case he gets end. You might as well just have those in your deck. No other card here is going to help you besides Pokemon catcher. Maybe like Random Receiver. Give you one of those. But yeah, Pokemon catcher is your number 1 card. If you draw it, it's an instant win card at this point. So he's going to get 2 back. 2 golden catchers. To make that even better. Oh, he's actually deciding to take it back. And deciding to go for Gold Potion instead. I disagree with this. You should definitely just go for 2 catchers here. But if Pram does not have an N here, the game ends immediately. He's got 2 attackers in play. One of them can catch out an EX and take the last 2 prizes. But here comes Terrakion. There's the fighting, and energy switch onto his Terrakion. Another energy switch onto Terrakion, and just like that, this is the power of Ho-Oh. We're going to see, he's got a computer search as well. He's going to discard his 2 cards and grab a catcher with that computer search, bring out that Darkrai. And if you're Dustin, you got to be feeling a little worried. And Pram just barely avoids decking himself out with the N too. So really, this is everything right down to the wire. Every single last resource is being used here for Pram. He is just hanging on barely in this game in every sense of the phrase. He's got a ton of damage on those EXs. He's going to have 1 card left in his deck. He's used pretty much all of his energy switches. He's coming back from down 4 prizes. Here's a land crush. And now it's all coming down to this. Does Dustin have a Pokemon catcher? If he does, he will win the game. If not, he's going to give Pram a chance to just draw a catcher and win. And that is why benching that Darkrai the previous turn probably was not the best idea. Oh boy. So it's all going to come down to this. Does Dustin have a catcher? And, he's got a Juniper. You think he's going to draw it for sure. Where is it? He needs the Pokemon catcher. And does he get it? No! No? He doesn't draw it? No, you got to be kidding me. Wow. And this could be one of the biggest comebacks we've ever seen in the Pokemon TCG, folks. Pram, by all means, looked like this game was over. It looked like he was just dead in the water. It was just a matter of time before Dustin was going to Night Spear and win. And now, oh boy. He's going to have to confuse Ray, because he knows if Pram has a catcher, the game is over. So he's got to at least make him flip for it. Next turn, he has a Skyla, he can catch her for the win. But right here, he's got to confuse Ray. And this game could come down to some confusion flips. This is not over. But we do know Pram's going to draw his deck. We do know he has a catcher left, so at the very least, this will come down to coin flips. If this confused Ray flip is tails, the game is over. If it's heads, it's a 50-50 shot of Pram winning. This is as close as it gets, folks. And Dustin is just shaking his head. Confuse Ray, and there's tails. No confusion. There's the catcher, and Pram will make an epic comeback in this first game in the top 8 of the Oswego, Illinois City Championship. Wow, what a game. This is what Pokemon is all about, folks. And if you're Dustin, you gotta be feeling like, how did that game get away from me? If you're Pram, you're thinking, how in the world did I win that game? And you're feeling confident. You just know that you can win the rest of the series. And wow. This is what high-level Pokemon is all about, folks. Does not get any better than that game. And this is the excitement that Ho-Oh provides, and Darkrai provides it too. Usually, the matchups with these decks are very close. And I love watching and commentating on these matchups because, you know, they always provide very, very close, down-to-the-wire games. Now, if you're Dustin, you can't let this loss get to you. It is a best 2 out of 3 series. So you do get to go first in the second game. You did have Pram. You had him beat, absolutely. You had him. It was your game. And it just kind of slipped through the cracks. So just don't let it happen again. You'll be fine. You know you have a good matchup here. Well, not a great matchup, but you know you have the ability to win. You know you're a great player. And there's no reason to let this one loss get to you. You know, it's hard not to feel a little shell-shocked after a loss like that, though. I will admit that. I've been there before. You know, when you just feel like the game is over, you won, but then you somehow lost. It's just one of the worst feelings in the world. It's very nerve-wracking, you know? You just feel like, where did I screw up? What did I do wrong? How did I lose? And it just felt like you could not lose, and then you did. It's very, I don't know, it just kind of rattles your confidence quite a bit. But we'll see what happens in this game, you know? It's only one game, you can just erase it from your memory, and we'll go from there. Now, Pram here, he's deciding what to start with. He actually decides to start with Terrakion, which I actually do not like at all. I really don't like starting with Terrakion against a Darkrai deck with hammers, because you're really just sacrificing your Terrakion. There's no way you're ever going to power it up completely. I would much rather start with that Sigilyph he had, or even the Mewtwo would be better in my opinion. I really do not like opening with that 4 retreat Terrakion that takes 3 energy to attack. Not worth it. But Pram decided to start with it. We'll see if it comes back to bite him or what happens here. Dustin gets the Skyla off of a random receiver. That's like the worst supporter you could ever see off of your Skyla. It's just, it's ugly. You know, or it's the worst supporter you could see off your random receiver. Skyla, you know, usually when you're playing random receiver, you just want to, you know, get a draw card. And then all you get is a Skyla, which can search for a draw card. Just very annoying. But it will allow Dustin to search through his deck and see what's in there. See what's prized. And he'll be able to choose whatever supporter he wants. You know, either N or Juniper, probably. Or he could just throw me for a loop and Skyla for a Skyla. I've never seen anyone do that before, and I hope I never do. Because that is one of the worst things ever in Pokemon. Alright, so we get a Juniper. He's just saying, you know what, next turn I'm just going to discard my hand, whatever. And he's going to attach a Dark. And I guess that's going to be his turn. He's got really nothing else to work with. And pass. So yeah, I really did not like Pram starting with his Terrakion here. I really much rather have you start with a Mewtwo there. I guess it doesn't end up mattering because he's going to Juniper that away. And you probably don't want to Juniper away your Terrakion. But just in general, I think the way to go is to just open with Mewtwo. That's the best thing to open with against Darkrai when you're playing the Ho-Oh deck. Because, you know, you can just put on early pressure with X-Ball, and then later on you can just pull off your energy switch shenanigans onto Terrakion. And it's whatever. So this is a strong start to X-Ball a Terrakion for 60. It really just puts the pressure on Dustin, you know, saying, alright, if you don't remove this double colorless, your Terrakion is going to get knocked out. And that takes away one of your big attackers in this matchup. But then again, there's Crushing Hammer. So he is the great equalizer. He's going to discard that DCE from the Mewtwo. And now Dustin's got to decide what he wants to do. You know, it's a weird decision for him. He drew his Mewtwo, which he would like to have in play, you know, for countering Pram's Mewtwo at some point. But is it going to be worth it? It's going to put Eviolite on Terrakion. And, yep, he's going to put down Mewtwo and then Juniper, discarding another Crushing Hammer and an Energy Switch. He doesn't have Darkrai out yet, so that Terrakion is still stuck up there with its 4 retreat cost. The Eviolite's very nice because it prevents any sort of, X-Ball shenanigans. You would need DCE plus power, Tool Scrapper to knock out the Terrakion, and that's just not feasible. It's a lot of resources to waste just to take one prize. And we do have an Ultra Ball and an Energy Search. So Dustin's just going to do both of those at once. He's going to grab a Sableye and a Dark, I suppose. He's just going to speed things up here. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, technically you're supposed to do one action at a time, but, it does not alter anything. Your decision to play Energy Search, I mean, it's going to stand. There's obviously a million energy in his deck that he's going to take anyway. And there's the Sableye, Darkrai, a Dark Patch, and wow, things are going very, very well for Dustin this game. Gonna free retreat to his Sableye, and he's gonna be able to Junk Hunt probably for a random receiver, and then something else to help him out. Probably Dark Patch or Energy Switch, I would think. We'll see what he decides to take. Now, one of the brutal things for Pram on his first turn is he had to discard 2 Pokemon catchers with his first Juniper, which is a very valuable resource to have all the time, and he just doesn't have that open to him at any point. He's only gonna have 2 catchers the rest of the game, so he cannot use them freely. Like, in this kind of a situation, if you had all 4 catchers available to you, this is one of those spots where you would just catcher out Dustin's Mewtwo and then force him to have an energy to retreat, force him to have more cards to start attacking you, blah, blah, blah. But now you can't waste them. You have to be very conservative with them because you're going to need them at some point to score a big knockout. And Pram, he's just loading up Terrakion. He's saying, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to make you hit some Crushing Hammers, otherwise this thing is going to tear you a new one. But, Dustin's got 2 hammers, and he gets a heads on one of them, so he is just fine with that. And just like that, Pram is back to 0 energy in play. And this is the strength of Sableye plus hammers. And there's a catcher on Terrakion as well. And this is where we can get into ugly spots again. If you're the Ho-Oh player. This is honestly a very complicated matchup for both sides. More so the Ho-Oh player, I would think, because you get punished very, very hard for, benching extra Pokemon, putting things in play too soon, putting the energy in the wrong spot, being aggressive when you shouldn't, where the Darkrai player can just fall back on their hammers at pretty much any point. So yeah, it's a very tough matchup, but it's a very close matchup as well. Now we do see another Dark Patch from Dustin. We'll see if he decides to retreat in Night Spirit. Looks like he will. And he's just going right for Terrakion. He's just saying, you know what? I'm going to take this thing out before it really can do any real damage. And we'll go from there. So here is the Night Spirit. It's going to do 90 and then 30 to Mewtwo. He's contemplating benching a Landorus EX as well. Decides not to. And there we go. There's 90 and 30 on the Mewtwo. Pretty ugly for Pram right now. He just does not have much in play. And he's going to have to end. Puts a grass on his Mewtwo, just kind of conceding the fact that he's not going to even attack this turn. He's not going to be able to use Terrakion. This one is pretty much just dead weight at this point. He's going to end for a fresh hand of 6. Dustin will get 6 as well. And yeah, this is just, another ugly game. That's all I can say about it. Pram, he's got an Ultra Ball. He could decide to discard a Ho-Oh here and a Mewtwo. He decides to do that. Since you're not really going to need all 3 Mewtwo's in this matchup, might as well just do that. And he's going to grab something. I don't know what he's going to grab, though. There's a Landorus, there's a Bouffalante he could get. And I think his second Terrakion is prized for the 2nd game in a row. Which can be a bummer. Yeah. If he doesn't have that second Terrakion, it's going to be really difficult for him to pull this game off. So we shall see. I guess he's just going to decide what he wants to take with his Ultra Ball. And it looks like he's going for a Bouffalant. That's just kind of a safe Pokemon to take. Nah, it's just the way it is. Yeah, Bouffalant is a safe Pokemon to take just because of the Bouffer ability. If you put it down, it doesn't take damage from Night Spear, really. It only takes 10, it's not a big target. Gold Breaker is very good against Darkrai. It's less effective when your opponent plays Terrakion, but, you know, it's never a bad Pokemon to have, in your hand at least. It's not usually going to burn you at all. So we do see Landorus EX come down for Dustin. This is going to be another scary Pokemon for Pam to deal with. Just because, I mean, it's a big dude. It can do a lot of damage with Land's Judgment. Night Spear and Land's Judgment work very well together to knock out EXs. It's something that gets overlooked quite a bit. But if you're Dustin here, you gotta be thinking in the back of your mind, like, if I Night Spear and take this knockout, does he have, like, a switch, Terrakion, an energy switch, and a fighting? Because then he could just retaliate me, knock me out, and then I'm behind in the game, and it's just kind of ugly, and yeah. So there's always a threat looming for the Ho-Oh deck. That's why it's so strong. You can just pull stuff out of nowhere and, you know, just kind of take the win. But we'll see. Now, Dustin, he's Skyless for Eviolite just in preparation for that big Terrakion move. It's a smart play. And Pram, I just don't know what he's going to do from here. You know, he's down prize. The Mewtwo is really not going to do a whole lot here. He's going to be able to X-Ball for 60 this turn because of that Eviolite. And yeah, the Terrakion not being in his deck is a big deal. It's not looking good. It's just the Crushing Hammers and the Enhanced Hammers really do a number on you early on in the game. And this is really a matchup where you kind of have to come back. You know, it's not one where you can really be aggressive early on just because those hammers keep you in check. And this is exactly what's happening here. And we can see another pretty dreadful hand from Pram. You just, what is he going to do? He can X-Ball for 60, that's it. It's not even like a two-hit knockout. It's just ugly. Next turn, if he gets like a Tool Scrapper and a DCE, he could X-Ball for 120 and get a knockout. He doesn't have the Tool Scrapper this turn, though, so it seems kind of unlikely. And we see a second fighting on the Landorus EX, so that's just even more brutal. I just do not see... You know, I didn't see Pram coming back the first game, but this game seems much more out of reach, if you want me to be completely honest. And now we see an N out of Dustin. Now, he's not going to be able to knock out the Mewtwo this turn, but he doesn't actually care. He's just kind of setting up the game for his Landorus to come in and sweep. Because honestly, it will. He's going to be able to Night Spear the active for 90, hit the bench Mewtwo for 30. And then you can just take a Hammerhead for 30 and 30. And then you can Land's Judgment, knock out a Mewtwo, go down to one prize, and then it's really just easy sailing from there. So yeah, there's the Night Spear. Oh, Pram does get the Tool Scrapper. So we could see a big play here. I mean, he's got a computer search, so he certainly can get the DCE. See if he wants to do that. He could also go for Ho-Oh and Rebirth. Get Energy Switch, he could do it that way. He just needs 4 energy on his Mewtwo to get a knockout this turn. That is just the way it is. So, now, I guess he's going to Ultra Ball for Bouffalant. And then, just to get it out of his deck, I suppose he just doesn't want it anymore. Going to Computer Search for the DCE, I would think. That is the one card he really wants. He's going to do the math and just make sure, and yes, that is a knockout. And, alright. So Pram will take the lead for, you know, this one turn, but he's not in a good position. There's a big difference between that. Having the prize lead in Pokemon does not mean you are winning. That's the way we determine who's winning when time is called, but It does not always mean you are winning the game. You're not in a good position to win just because you're leading on prizes. And there we go. There's an X-Ball. Gonna knock out the Darkrai. Pram really didn't have any other options, and it looks like, oh, he got the tracking off his prize. Uh-oh. So we could see some big stuff coming again. And we'll have to see what Dustin decides to do here. I would assume he's just going to go with Hammerhead. Just do 30 and 30 to both Mewtwo's, take the knockout that way. He's going to catch up the other Mewtwo. You know, if he could get a Night Spear off, that would be the best way to go about it. But that seems pretty difficult. I don't know. He's got an Energy Switch. He would need a Dark Patch. And then, yeah, I just don't see it happening. He's just going to retreat to his Landorus. Take a look at how many resources he's used. He's got a Juniper. I think he's considering playing it. He's going to Energy Switch a Dark onto a Darkrai. He's going to do it on the other Darkrai, not the one with the fighting already, so it's kind of a strange move. He's going to Juniper for 7. He's probably expecting to get a Dark Patch off of this, that's why. And it looks like he probably did. Searching his discard pile. Is there a Dark in there? There should be. His Darkrai just got knocked out. Oh, he actually didn't get a Dark Patch. Okay. But still, he's in a wonderful position. He can Hammerhead 30 and 30. Next turn, there's all sorts of stuff he could do. He can Land's Judgment, knock out the Mewtwo. There's just a lot of stuff that Dustin can do. And honestly, the difference in this game is just having that Landorus there, having this big buff Pokemon to, you know, go toe-to-toe with Pram's Pokemon. He didn't really have that last game. Darkrai is really fragile when it comes to facing other Terrakions, and yeah. It's not always pretty. So there we go. Hammerhead for 30 and 30. It's going to take down that Mewtwo. And it's going to be on Pram here. Does he have the cards to pull something magical off? I think he's going to need a switch, an energy switch, a catcher, a Terrakion, a rebirth. He's going to need a lot of stuff. So he's going to go for the rebirth. And oh, there's a Tails. Going to go for another rebirth. So he's going for it. And alright, we'll see. He needs a heads here to pull off something. Oh, goes off the table again. What's it going to be? It is heads. Alright, so he's going to be able to get a Ho-Oh into play. Get a Psychic, a Grass, and a Fighting back. And will Pram be able to pull this off? This would be a major, major play here. Here comes Terrakion. There's a Fighting. He's got the Energy Switch. He's got the Switch and the Catcher. Wow, he's got everything in his hand. This could be huge. And we could see Pram pulling off another huge win here. We're going to see an Energy Switch, moving the Fighting to the Terrakion. Catcher up the Darkrai with the Dark on it. And he's going to play an N. Dustin's got to be sweating a little bit here. This is crazy. And you got to think, can Pram pull off another miracle? This is just how quickly things can swing in this matchup. Got to hand it to Pram for finding ways to pull these games out, or at least make them close. Even though things look very bleak early on. He's going to get his 4 cards. From the end, Dustin will get 3. And then we're going to have a Retaliate for a knockout. Here comes Landorus. Now, the one nice thing about, having that Landorus there is he can just take this this Terrakion out of play. He can just use Land's Judgment and get rid of it. And he really needs to, because if he couldn't, he probably just would have got Land Crushed for the game. And now it's not so simple. Now Pram's going to have something here. We got a Charon for 3. Gets a Lightning and Energy Switch, and then a Fighting. His hand isn't really that great. But he can Rainbow Burn here for 80, and then next turn he can Rainbow Burn for 100. And he could win the game that way. So he's gonna consider what energy he actually wants to put down. He might consider putting a Fighting on there in case he gets his Landorus. He's going to go with the Lightning, though. And looks like he's just going to Rainbow Burn for 80 damage. This is going to really come down to the wire. It might come down to whether or not Dustin draws like a catcher, whether he can attack with Darkrai this turn. He might just go ahead and junk out with Sableye. I'm not really sure what he's going to do. But it's definitely going to be close. This could be over in 2 turns. It's a very colorful Ho-Oh. A Grass, Psychic, and a Lightning on it. And, oh, the Gold Potion again. This has just been the bane of Pram's existence in this match. Yikes. That Gold Potion is a killer. I don't know if Pram can withstand that. That's just too much. But we'll see. It actually might come down to whether or not Pram has a catcher next turn. This is a very interesting position. If you take a look at his hand, he has 2 energy switches. And he has a Psychic. We could see a Mewtwo Side Drive. That is Mewtwo's second attack. It does have one other attack besides X-Ball. For 2 Psychic and a Colorless, it is 120 damage and you discard an energy attached to Mewtwo. If he could catcher out Dustin's Mewtwo next turn and Side Drive, he wins the game. So this could be where discarding those 2 catchers early on will bite him. It's so tough to tell. Man, if he draws a catcher, he wins. He's got all the cards for the Side Drive. This is ridiculous. He will need, I guess, Pram will need a switch, or he'll need to rebirth, because he doesn't have enough energy to retreat and double energy switch. So there is that. Guess I didn't consider that. But if he could pull this off, wow. So we have a junk hunt for an energy switch and an energy search. And honestly, this could all just come down to what Pram draws off of. I think he's got a supporter. I couldn't see. If he doesn't, then he doesn't have the catcher. It's probably going to lose next turn to, Dustin can energy switch the fighting to his Landorus, energy search for another fighting, and then catcher up Mewtwo and lands Judgment for the game. So, man, this is just going to be close no matter what. It's going to come down to, now it's going to come down to whether or not Dustin has a catcher. And Pram is just going to attach a fighting onto Mewtwo. So I guess he's pretty much just saying whatever. If you have the game, you have the game. If not, I think I'm going to win. But here goes Dustin. He's going to energy search for the fighting. Energy switch to the Landorus and catcher the Mewtwo. And wow, what a game. Again, these 2 guys putting on a great show. And Dustin Zimmerman will win game number 2 as we move on to the 3rd and final game here in the top 8 of the Oswego, Illinois City Championships. So yeah, that lands Judgment for 150. Landorus EX was just coming in huge in that matchup. And you can see it was just worth its weight in gold there. Took out the big Terrakion that was the big threat. And took out the Mewtwo for the final 2 prizes. He had enough energy in play to pull that off. And it was just a gigantic play. So that was something we didn't see in the first game. Definitely impacted second game. And now we'll see what happens in the 3rd game with these guys. It's hard to tell what's going to happen with so many variables, so many different attackers from Ho-Oh. You never know what can happen with Rebirth, with Energy Switch, with those plus powers, with Mewtwo. You never know what's going to happen from Dustin with all those energy switches, the Landorus, the Terrakion, the Crushing Hammer, the Enhanced Hammer. It's just too hard to predict what's going to happen, and then at the end of it all, you have N, which can disrupt pretty much any match. So, yeah. It's going to be an exciting 3rd game. I don't know how much time is actually left. You can see. There probably isn't much time left. So, it could be decided by whoever takes the first 1 or 2 prizes. That is something that is possible. It's not something you want to see, but it can happen. So, we shall see. These guys are going to get set up for game number 3. They'll draw their 7 cards. And looks like Pram is going to start with his Landorus EX, which is probably the best thing he could have hoped for. The only way this can backfire is if Dustin draws his gold potion early on. But Pram starts with Landorus. Doesn't look like he has a supporter, though. That could be bad. And we got a Hammerhead for 60. And honestly, this could just come down to crushing hammers. If Dustin hits a Crushing Hammer, he might win. If he doesn't, that Landorus could just get powered up, and then he could just lands Judgment, and then Darkrai just kind of gets destroyed. So we've seen Ultra Ball from Dustin. He's going to discard a Dark Energy, and it looks like an N as well. Grabbing Sableye there. This is a pretty standard start for any Darkrai deck. Sableye and Darkrai really go hand in hand in this format. Then we have a Bianca. He's going to draw 4 cards. Gets the energy switch if he wanted to do that. Puts down a second Sableye. Normally you don't see people do that, but since he's running Terrakion, he can afford to do that anyway. And there is going to be either a Confuse Ray or a Junk Hunt. I guess that's a weird decision to make, but he's going to go for the Junk Hunt. And now, Pram's got a second fighting. He's got a catcher as well. Does he want to burn the catcher on bringing out the Darkrai and hitting it for another 60? Or nope, he's just going to go for 30 and 30 to both stabilize. And this is getting scary very quickly for Dustin. There's a 2-energy Landorus staring you down. Oh man, it's got no damage on it. But the only thing going for you is that Pram has not played a supporter yet. He doesn't have any other Pokemon even. So Dustin's just going to Ultra Ball twice. Discarding 2 more Ns because he realizes Pram does not have a very good hand. And he also realizes that this is pretty much a sudden death situation where, I mean, it's just going to come. It's not going to be a long game. It's not going to be one where someone draws 6 prizes. It's going to be one where, you know, whoever takes the first couple prizes is going to win. So Dustin will grab a Terrakion and a Landorus EX. You can really see that his deck can shift between attackers based on what matchup he wants to play against. I mean, it can be like a straight Darkrai deck, or he can just kind of beat you down with Terrakion and Landorus as well. So it's a cute deck that Dustin has. Has a lot of stuff going for him. Now here is a Crushing Hammer. This is a huge flip, and wow, he gets the heads. That is actually like a game-deciding flip, honestly. It is. That is the difference between a win and a loss. That one coin flip right there. If that is tails, Pram gets to just lands Judgment next turn, gets the catcher out of Darkrai, take 2 prizes, and he might just win on time. That is the difference here. Wow. Instead, he's going to have to Hammerhead again, and that is not what he wants to do. So we see a catcher, and let's see, what else did he get? A Crushing Hammer. So Pram's going to catcher up Terrakion here. He's realizing how low time is, and he realizes that, alright, I need to just kind of take a prize. And also he realizes that he doesn't have any more Pokemon. So if this Landorus gets knocked out, he just kind of loses. So I think he's going to go for a Sableye here. He might as well just do that. But, oh, he's actually going to go for the Landorus instead. That's surprising. I would think that he was just going to try to go for a free prize with the Hammerhead. There's a Tails on a Crushing Hammer. That's a big flip. You can see Pram kind of fist pump there. There's an Energy Search. So Dustin will be able to attach a Dark Inner Treat. But yeah, I'm really surprised that Pram decided not to target down a Sableye with that 30 from Hammerhead. Sure, it's appealing to be able to lands Judgment that the Landorus at some point, but you gotta think time's getting low, your hand is really bad, you might as well just try to take a prize. And I guess this is just, I mean, this is gonna be really tough for Pram to really do anything. He does not have anything in his hand. And I mean, if he had another fighting energy in his hand, it would be different, but he doesn't. But then again, Dustin does have a gold potion, so maybe it's not going to matter. We do see a Crushing Hammer and an Energy Search come back. And Pram is just not drawing anything here. He just drew another energy. He drew a Grass Energy. It's not going to help him. And this is absolutely brutal. So we might just see him lose with one Landorus out there. Just brutally losing the game. He's going to attach the grass, I suppose, just to say, you know what, if I do draw another Pokemon, at least I'll have energy to energy switch. You know, maybe if I get a Bouffalant or something like that. But we're going to Hammerhead, do 30 and 30 to the Landorus again. And taking a long time to draw the card. I think this might be time, but I'm not really sure. But yeah, this is really nerve-wracking. Can Dustin pull this one off? I mean, he doesn't have an attacker right away, and oh, there's a gold potion. That's going to heal off his Sableye and take away the prize that Pram might get in. Crushing Hammer, heads. There goes the fighting. Ouch. So that takes away any real options Pram had. But it's still not going to matter unless Dustin can actually attack this turn. He's going to need something. He's going to need like a Dark Patch or 2 energy switches to Night Spear this turn. But if he can Night Spear this turn, this game is pretty much over, I would think. And he gets the Skyla. He's going to go ahead and play the Skyla. I guess that'll get him a Dark Patch or an energy switch. Either one will probably allow him to Night Spear this turn. And if he can do that, I mean, what can Pram do at that point? He has nothing in his hand. He has a double colorless, he has some energy switches and stuff, but that's it. He doesn't have anything else. So there's the Dark Patch. It's going to allow Dustin to Dark Patch onto his Darkrai. And I think you can retreat and energy switch and then attach. And then he can power up a Darkrai in one turn. That is the power of this deck. It's the power of Darkrai and Dark Patch and energy switch and all that good stuff. So he's going to energy search for a fighting. This is really down to the wire. You know, you wish they had more time to kind of play this out, but you know, there are time limits at events. 60 minutes is the standard. But even if there was more time, I don't think Pram really has any options to work with. So it's not that big of a deal. Now, Pram, he could top deck a number of things to help him out. If he just top decks, let's say, an Ultra Ball, a Computer Search, a Bouffalant, all of these allow him to switch, and then Energy Switch, play a double colorless, and Gold Breaker for the knockout. So this is something we have to be aware of. It's all riding on this top deck here. If he doesn't draw another Pokemon, the game's over. But he could draw so many things to help him win. And a double colorless is not one of them. So after those 2 great games, we're going to end on a dud. But Dustin Zimmerman will move on. And the next card was a Juniper, but I don't think that probably would have helped. Would have discarded too many cards. But man, it all came down to those crushing hammers. Pram did not draw anything good. And that's going to be it. Dustin Zimmerman moves on to the top 4 here at the Oswego, Illinois City Championships. What a great match between these 2 guys. Got to commend both of them for putting on a great show. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Pooka from the Top Cut. We'll be back with more videos soon, and I'll see you next time.